Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Ella. She lived with her father, who loved her dearly. Ella's world was full of sunshine and laughter. But one day, her father married a woman who had 2 daughters of her own. This new stepmother and her daughters, Anastasia and Rizella, were not kind at all. Soon after, Ella's beloved father passed away, leaving her all alone with her new family. From that day on, everything changed. Her stepmother and stepsisters were jealous of Ella's beauty and sweet nature. They made her do all the work in the house. She had to cook, clean, and mend their clothes from morning until night. They took her beautiful dresses and made her wear old rags. At night, she would sleep by the fireplace in the kitchen. Because she was often covered in cinders from the fire, her stepsisters mockingly called her Cinderella. Despite their cruelty, Cinderella remained kind and gentle. Her only friends were the little mice who lived in the walls and the birds who came to her window each morning. She would share her small meals with them and sing sweet songs that filled the dusty corners of the house with a little bit of magic. One day, a royal messenger arrived with an exciting announcement. The king was holding a grand ball in honor of his son, the prince. Every eligible young woman in the kingdom was invited. The prince was looking for a bride, and the ball would be the most splendid event of the year. The stepsisters were overjoyed. A ball. The prince. They shrieked with excitement. For weeks, the house was in chaos. They ordered new gowns, fancy shoes, and sparkling jewels. Cinderella had to work harder than ever, helping them get ready. She sewed their sashes, ironed their dresses, and curled their hair, all while dreaming of the ball herself. "May I go to the ball too?" Cinderella asked her stepmother, her eyes shining with hope. Her stepmother sneered. "You? In those rags? You would be a disgrace." But Cinderella remembered a beautiful dress that had belonged to her mother, tucked away in an old trunk. With the help of her little mice friends, Yak and Goose, she fixed it up. They added ribbons and bows, transforming it into a lovely gown. When she came downstairs, looking beautiful, her stepsisters were furious. "Those are my beads," cried Rizella. "And that's my sash," shrieked Anastasia. In a fit of jealousy, they ripped her dress and tore off the beads, leaving Cinderella in tears, her beautiful gown ruined. "Now you have nothing to wear," her stepmother said with a cruel smile. "You can't go to the ball and Witat." They left for the palace, leaving Cinderella all alone, crying in the garden. "It's no use," she sobbed. "There's nothing left to believe in." But just as she was about to give up hope, a shimmering light appeared. It grew brighter and brighter, and in its glow stood a kind-looking woman with a sparkling wand. "Who are you?" Cinderella whispered. "I am your fairy godmother," the woman said with a warm smile. "Now dry your tears. You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, the magic began. "Bee-bee-dee-bo-bee-dee-bo," she chanted. First, she turned a pumpkin from the garden into a magnificent, gleaming coach. Then, she transformed 4 of the little mice into 4 stunning white horses to pull it. The old horse, Major, became a coachman, and the dog, Bruno, became a footman in a fancy uniform. Cinderella looked down at her torn dress. "But I can't go in this," she said sadly. "Of course not," the fairy godmother chuckled. With another flick of her wand, Cinderella's rags swirled into a breathtaking ball gown of shimmering silver blue, and on her feet appeared the most delicate pair of glass slippers. Cinderella gasped. She looked like a princess. "It's beautiful." "Oh, thank you. Sikrieth. Sikrieth. Now off you go," said the fairy godmother. "But remember, this magic has a time limit. On the stroke of midnight, the spell will be broken, and everything will turn back to what it was before." Cinderella promised to remember, and with a joyful heart, she stepped into the magical coach and rode off to the palace. When she arrived at the ball, everyone turned to look. No one recognized the beautiful girl who had just entered. Even her own stepmother and stepsisters didn't know it was her. They just wondered who this mysterious princess could be. The prince, who had been bored all evening, saw her from across the room. He was captivated by her grace and beauty. He walked straight to her and asked her to dance. As they waltzed together, it felt as if they were the only two people in the room. They danced and talked and laughed for hours. Cinderella had never been so happy. She completely forgot about the time. Suddenly, the clock began to chime. Dong dot dot dot. Dong dot dot. Dong. "Oh, it's midnight," she cried. "I have to go." She pulled away from the prince and ran from the ballroom as fast as she could. "Wait, I don't even know your name," he called after her. She raced down the grand staircase, and in her haste, one of her glass slippers fell off. There was no time to go back for it. She jumped into her coach just as the final chime of midnight struck. As the coach sped away, the magic began to fade. The beautiful coach turned back into a pumpkin. The horses became mice again, and her splendid gown turned back into her old, ragged dress. All she had left was the one glass slipper on her foot, a single reminder of the magical night. The prince was heartbroken. He had found the girl of his dreams, and now she was gone. But he had a clue, the glass slipper she had left behind. The next day, the king issued a royal proclamation. The prince would marry the maiden whose foot fit the tiny glass slipper. The Grand Duke traveled all over the kingdom with the slipper on a velvet pillow. He went from house to house, having every young woman try it on. But the slipper was so small and delicate, it wouldn't fit anyone. Finally, the Grand Duke arrived at Cinderella's house. The stepsisters, Anastasia and Rizella, were desperate to make it fit. They squeezed and pushed and shoved, but their feet were much too big. The stepmother, realizing that Cinderella was the mysterious princess from the ball, locked her in her room. She wouldn't let her have a chance to try on the slipper. But Cinderella's loyal mice friends, Yak and Gus, were determined to help her. They bravely stole the key from the stepmother's pocket, struggled up the long staircase, and slid it under Cinderella's door. Cinderella unlocked the door and rushed downstairs just as the Duke was about to leave. "Please, wait," she said softly. "May I try?" The stepmother scoffed. "It's only Cinderella." But the Duke, following the prince's orders, had to let every maiden try. As he approached Cinderella, the wicked stepmother tripped him, and the glass slipper flew into the air, shattering into 1,000 tiny pieces on the floor. Everyone gasped. It seemed all hope was lost. But Cinderella smiled gently. "Oh, that's all right," she said. "I have the other one." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the matching glass slipper. It slid onto her foot perfectly. It was a perfect fit. The stepmother and stepsisters stared in disbelief. At that moment, they knew the beautiful princess from the ball was none other than the girl they had treated so poorly. Soon after, Cinderella and the prince were married in a grand ceremony. Her kindness and courage had won her a life of happiness. She forgave her stepmother and stepsisters, proving that a good heart is the greatest treasure of all, and they all lived happily ever after.